The scriptures are not just stories, they are divine patterns, heavenly blueprints, ancient codes encrypted with eternal truths. What happened in the days of Abraham, Joseph, David, Elijah, and Esther is not just history, it is prophecy. It is the shadow of what is, what was, and what is yet to come. Every story is a mirror, every miracle a message, every moment a mystery waiting to be unlocked in your life. For the Bible is not a dead book, it is alive, and you are called to walk within its pages. And now the Spirit beckons us to uncover the deeper layers, the hidden meanings behind the stories we thought we already knew. Eden was not merely a garden, it was the dwelling place of divine presence, the intersection of heaven and earth, where man walked in unbroken fellowship with his Creator. But when Adam fell, Eden didn't disappear, it was sealed. The way back was barred not forever, but until the time of redemption would be fulfilled. The flaming sword that turned in every direction wasn't just guarding the way, it was preserving it. And that sword would not fall upon Adam, it would fall upon the Son of Man. You see, the story of Eden is not just a story of loss, it is a prophetic shadow of restoration. What was forfeited in disobedience would be reclaimed through obedience. The first Adam was cast out of the garden, but the last Adam would enter a garden called Gethsemane. And in that garden he would choose the will of the Father over his own. He would reverse the curse with blood and tears. Eden was lost through the taking of forbidden fruit, but it would be reopened through the yielding of divine flesh. The longing in the human soul, the hunger for beauty, peace, belonging, intimacy with God, it all traces back to Eden. Every ache is a memory, every desire is a distant echo of the garden, but that garden is not just a dream, it is a destiny. The Bible doesn't end with exile, it ends with return. In Revelation, the tree of life appears again, not in a secluded garden, but in a city. Eden becomes Jerusalem. What began as a garden ends as a kingdom, and now the call goes forth, not just to look back at what was lost, but to walk forward in pursuit of what has been made available again. In Messiah, the way back is no longer guarded. It is opened. He is the gate. He is the path. He is the restoration of Eden. So don't live as if you've been cast out forever. Don't wander the earth like Cain when the Spirit is calling you home. The garden is not behind you. It is before you. And every step of obedience, every act of faith, every surrender of your will is a step toward the center of the divine presence once again. Eden is not a myth, it's your calling. It's not just a memory, it's your inheritance, and it waits for the one who dares to return. In a world overflowing with corruption, where violence filled the earth and the hearts of men were set on evil continually, God spoke to a single man, Noah. He didn't speak thunder from the heavens, he didn't send angels in flaming chariots. He gave an instruction: build an ark, a vessel of wood, sealed with pitch 3 stories high, a boat not designed by human intuition but by divine command. It would seem foolish to the world, a monstrosity in the middle of dry ground, yet it was the very shape of salvation. The ark was not just a physical structure, it was a prophetic blueprint. It was the shadow of something greater. It revealed the nature of divine mercy in the midst of divine judgment. For judgment was coming, but God always provides a way of escape for those who walk with him. The ark was not built overnight. It took years, decades of obedience in the face of mockery. Noah was a preacher of righteousness, but the world didn't listen. They kept eating, drinking, marrying, and building, until the day the sky cracked open and the fountains of the deep erupted from beneath. Then it was too late, but for Noah and his family, sealed inside the ark, the flood did not destroy it, lifted. What drowned the world raised the righteous. The very waters of judgment became the waters of transition. The ark rode upon what overwhelmed the rest of humanity, and here is the mystery. The ark points to Messiah. Just as the ark was made of wood, the cross would be fashioned from a tree. Just as the ark was sealed with pitch to make it waterproof, so the blood of the Lamb would seal us from the wrath to come. Just as there was only one door to the ark, there is only one way into salvation. The same hand that shut the door in Noah's day is the hand that opens it in ours, if we will enter in. And the deeper truth, the flood is coming again, not of water, but of fire, of shaking, of tribulation, of the final days. The world mocks righteousness once more. It builds its towers, celebrates its sin, and ignores the warnings. But the call is going forth again. Prepare the ark, not of wood this time, but of faith, of consecration, of covenant. Build in the Spirit what Noah built in the natural. Prepare your heart as a place of refuge. Bring in your family, your children, your legacy. You are not called to drown with the world. You are called to ride above the flood. The days of Noah are returning, but so is the ark. Will you enter in? Will you obey when no one else sees the storm coming? Will you build when it costs you your comfort, your reputation, even your understanding? The rain will come, but those in the ark will rise. When God called Abraham, he gave him no map, no timeline, no detailed plan. Only a word: go. Go from your country, your people, your father's house, to the land that I will show you. It was a call to leave everything familiar, everything secure, and to walk into the unknown. But in that single act of obedience, Abraham stepped into divine history. He did not just go on a journey, he became the journey. He became the pattern of faith for all who would come after. What many miss is that Abraham's journey was not just geographic, it was prophetic. It was the story of the soul. God didn't need to get Abraham to a piece of land, he needed to get Abraham to a place of surrender. Every step he took in the physical land was mirrored by a deeper step in the spirit. The journey itself was the altar on which his will, his comfort, his understanding, and even his own dreams were laid down. The test was not just whether Abraham would arrive, it was whether he would keep walking without answers. The test was not just when he left Haran. It was every time the promise seemed delayed, every time the land felt barren, every time famine struck, and the vision remained unseen. But the deeper mystery is this: the test was not meant to disqualify him. It was the very tool God used to shape him into the father of nations. And then came the greatest test of all. After decades of waiting, when the promise finally came in the form of Isaac, God asked for the unthinkable: to offer the son, to lay the promise itself on the altar. This wasn't about child sacrifice. This was about covenant surrender. God was asking Abraham to trust him not just with his journey, but with his destiny. And in that moment, when Abraham raised the knife, heaven saw faith in its purest form. Not blind, not reckless, but refined by fire. The angel intervened, the ram appeared, and the mountain was named Yahweh Yire, the Lord will provide. And here's the revelation: Abraham didn't just pass the test, he became the test for generations. His life shouts to every believer: will you obey when you don't understand? Will you trust when the road is unclear? Will you surrender the blessing when God asks for it back? Because the test is not the end, it's the passage. The journey is not the distraction, it's the transformation, and the blessing isn't withheld, it's hidden in the very act of surrender. So if you find yourself walking through uncertainty, know this: you're walking in the footsteps of Abraham. If you feel like you're wandering without clear answers, you are in the divine pattern. You're not lost, you're being led. The true blessing is not just what you receive at the end, but what you become along the way. Joseph's story begins with a dream. Heaven, sent, bold, and beyond his years. He saw the stars bowing, the sheaves kneeling, the future unfolding with glory. But what followed that dream looked nothing like the dream itself. Instead of honor came hatred. Instead of elevation came exile. His brothers, those who shared his blood, betrayed him, stripped him of his robe, and threw him into a pit. The dreamer was cast down, and it looked like the dream had died. But here is the mystery: the pit was not the end, it was the beginning. The pit was the doorway to the process, and the process was the path to the palace. The very betrayal that sought to silence his dream became the instrument that carried him toward it. For Joseph wasn't being buried, he was being planted. From the pit he was sold into slavery in Egypt. In Potiphar's house he rose in favor, only to be falsely accused and thrown into prison. Again, down he went, another descent, another death to the promise. But even there the Lord was with him. Even there Joseph interpreted dreams. Even there he became a vessel of divine insight, because God was doing something deeper than just fulfilling Joseph's dream. He was preparing Joseph to carry the dream. Before he could rule, he had to be refined. Before he could lead Egypt, he had to learn to serve in secret. Before he could manage famine, he had to learn to steward integrity. The pit was the womb of purpose. The prison was the proving ground. Then, in a moment ordained by heaven, Joseph was summoned. The chains were broken. The prison doors opened, and he stood before Pharaoh not as a broken slave, but as a vessel of wisdom. One divine interpretation later, and the dreamer became the ruler. He was given authority over the most powerful empire of his day. The robe that had been torn from him was replaced with garments of glory. The boy who was thrown down now sat at the right hand of power, and here is the revelation: Joseph's rise wasn't just for himself. It was for his family, for his people, for the nation of Israel, and even for Egypt. The dream wasn't about personal glory. It was about divine provision. God had placed the dream in him not just to exalt him, but to use him as a vessel of salvation. So if you find yourself in the pit, betrayed by those you trusted, stripped of what you thought was your calling, do not despair. The pit is not the end, it is the passage. The lower you go, the deeper God is working, and when the time is fulfilled, he will raise you up, not just for your sake, but to preserve many lives. Joseph's story teaches us that delay is not denial, that suffering is not separation, and that what man means for evil, God will turn for good. Your pit may feel like death, but it is leading you to a throne you cannot yet see. Hold fast, dreamer. The palace is coming. Moses was not just a deliverer, he was a revelation. From the moment he was placed in the Nile, hidden in a basket of reeds, his life was marked by divine orchestration. He was drawn out of the waters by Pharaoh's own daughter, raised in the very house of the enemy, trained in the language and culture of Egypt, but set apart by the hand of God. He was caught between two identities, Hebrew by blood, Egyptian by adoption. And yet, even in the tension, God was shaping the vessel, but Moses' first attempt at deliverance failed. He killed an Egyptian, and instead of leading his people, he fled into the wilderness. For 40 years, he tended sheep in the backside of the desert. Forgotten by Egypt, forgotten perhaps even by himself, but not forgotten by God. And then, when he was no longer looking for greatness, no longer leaning on his strength, the bush burned, it burned but was not consumed. It was there in the fire that God spoke. Take off your sandals, he said, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Moses was drawn, not just to freedom, but to fire, to the holy, to the weight of the divine presence. And that is the mystery. God didn't call Moses just to deliver the people from bondage. He called him to lead them to the mountain of fire. The Exodus wasn't the end, it was the beginning. The goal was not just escape from Pharaoh, it was encounter with Yahweh. When Moses stood before Pharaoh, it wasn't a political struggle. It was a cosmic showdown. Every plague struck at the gods of Egypt. Every sign revealed the supremacy of Yahweh. And when the people were finally released, God led them not by the shortest route, but by the wilderness, by the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire, because he wasn't just taking them out of something, he was bringing them into something. And when they reached Sinai, the mountain shook, the sky thundered, and the fire descended. God himself came down, not to destroy, but to invite. He had called a nation to be a kingdom of priests, but when the fire appeared, the people shrank back. They said to Moses, "You speak to us. We'll listen, but don't let God speak to us or we'll die." They wanted freedom, but not fire, deliverance, but not the presence. And so Moses alone climbed the mountain into the thick darkness where God was. And herein lies the deeper truth. Many are content to be delivered from Egypt, but few are willing to climb the mountain. Many want salvation, but shrink back from the fire. But you were not delivered just to walk away. You were delivered to draw near. You were saved not just to be free, but to burn with the presence of God. Moses' face would shine with glory because he dared to go where others would not. He was not satisfied with mere promises. He longed for God's face. And that's the invitation for us, not just to leave the world behind, but to press into the holy place, to carry not just freedom, but fire. You are not just called to escape. You are called to shine. You are not just redeemed from something. You are redeemed for something. And until the fire becomes your desire, you have not yet reached the mountain. Esther's life was marked by divine concealment. She was an orphan raised in exile, a Jew hidden among Persians, a young woman with no pedigree for greatness, yet chosen to be queen. It seemed like a fairy tale rise to power, but heaven had orchestrated it all for a purpose far beyond the crown. She didn't rise for comfort or status. She rose for a divine assignment. At first, Esther didn't know why she was there. She obeyed Mordecai's instruction, kept her identity hidden, and moved quietly through the corridors of the palace. But when Haman's plot to destroy the Jews was revealed, everything changed. A decree of death had gone out over her people, and the enemy's hand was already moving. In that moment, Esther's silence became dangerous. Mordecai sent word that pierced through her royal robes and reached into her spirit. Do not think that you will escape in the king's palace. If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise from another place. But who knows if you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? That phrase, such a time as this, echoes through the generations, because Esther's story is not just history, it is a divine pattern. God places his people in strategic positions, not for personal gain, but for kingdom purposes. You may feel unqualified, you may feel hidden, like your voice doesn't matter, but when the moment comes, when the battle rises, when darkness advances, your silence becomes agreement, and your voice becomes a weapon. Esther's decision didn't come easily. She fasted, she prayed, and then she made the choice that changed everything. If I perish, I perish. She walked into the throne room uninvited, risking her life. But heaven backed her boldness. The king extended the scepter, the tables turned. The gallows built for her cousin became the downfall of her enemy. The deeper truth is this: Esther was never truly hidden, she was positioned. And so are you. You are not where you are by accident. Your job, your city, your family, your circle of influence. It has all been orchestrated by the hand of the king. But position without courage accomplishes nothing. Favor without action is wasted. You must speak when it costs you. You must stand when it's not safe. You must intercede when the threat is real. This is not a time to shrink back. This is not a time to wait for someone else to rise. Heaven is calling your name. The crisis of your day is the summons to your destiny. And even now, God is asking, will you be the one who stands in the gap? You were born for such a time as this. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, but now. And what you do in this hour may determine the salvation of many. Let your fear die. Let your voice rise. Let your calling awaken. The time is not coming. The time is here. David was never meant to be a warrior in the eyes of man. He was a shepherd, the youngest of 8 sons, overlooked by his father, forgotten by his brothers, and unknown to the army of Israel. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint a new king, David wasn't even invited to the ceremony. But heaven had already seen him, singing in the fields, slaying lions in secret, worshipping under open skies. What men ignore, God sees. What is hidden in the pasture is often being prepared for the palace. Then came the moment. Goliath stepped onto the battlefield, a towering threat, armored in intimidation, breathing defiance against the people of God. Israel trembled. Even Saul, the warrior king, would not move. For 40 days Goliath mocked, and for 40 days no one responded. But David heard something different. He heard not a man's voice, but a challenge to the name of the living God. And while others saw a giant too big to fight, David saw a giant too big to miss. His courage did not come from pride. It came from covenant. He had no sword, no armor, no formal training, but he carried the memory of God's faithfulness in private battles. The same God who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the bear will deliver me from this uncircumcised Philistine. David ran toward the battle when others ran away. He didn't try to fight with Saul's armor, because what fits the world will not fit the anointing. He picked up 5 smooth stones, not because he doubted God, but because he was prepared to finish the job. With 1 stone aimed by faith and released with fire, the giant fell. And here's the mystery: Goliath was not just an enemy, he was a door. David's anointing had already been spoken, but it was the giant that revealed it. The battlefield was the platform where the shepherd became a warrior and the anointed became known. Without Goliath, David may have remained in the field, but it was the giant that summoned him into visibility, into authority, into destiny. The deeper truth is this: your giant is not just a problem, it's a passage. It is not standing in your way, it is unlocking the way. The enemy that threatens you is the very one God will use to elevate you. What appears to be resistance is often the confirmation that you are on the path of purpose. Do not fear the giant before you. It's not there to destroy you. It's there to reveal you. The anointing is already upon you. The oil has already been poured, but it is your obedience in the face of the impossible that will release the fullness of your calling. When you stand before your Goliath, do not bring your doubt. Bring your history with God. Bring your secret victories, bring your sling and your worship, because your giant is the door, and when it falls, a kingdom opens. The cross was never a backup plan. It was not a reaction to failure. It was the plan before time began. Before the foundations of the world, the Lamb was already slain in the heart of the Father. The cross was written into the fabric of creation, hidden in plain sight, waiting for its appointed hour. And when that hour came, it was not an accident. It was an appointment. To the world, it looked like the end. The Messiah was beaten, mocked, pierced, and hung upon wood like a common criminal. The sky turned black, the earth trembled, his followers scattered in despair. The one who raised the dead was dying. The one who opened blind eyes closed his own. The one who claimed to be the way, the truth, and the life was now lifeless on a Roman cross. But heaven was not mourning, it was moving. Because what appeared to be the end was actually the greatest beginning. On that cross Jesus did not lose. He triumphed. The nails were not forced. They were received. The blood was not spilled. It was poured. And in his final cry, it is finished. The veil was torn, the curse was broken, and the gate of Eden began to reopen. The cross is not the symbol of defeat. It is the throne of victory. It was there that the serpent's head was crushed. There that the power of sin was destroyed. There that death lost its grip. The place of death became the womb of resurrection. And in that paradox lies the mystery of the gospel. Life comes through surrender, glory through humility, power through weakness. The deeper truth is this: The cross is not just an event in history, it is a pattern for your life. You cannot follow the Messiah and bypass the cross. To truly live, you must first die, not physically, but in your will, your pride, yourself. The cross is not a moment, it is a lifestyle. Take up your cross daily, he said, not once, but daily, because every death to self is a seed of resurrection power. And here is the wonder. The cross was not the end of Jesus. It was the end of everything that held us captive. It was the death of death itself. It was the end of separation, the end of striving, the end of condemnation. And in that end, a new creation began, not just for him, but for all who would believe. So if you find yourself standing before a cross, before pain, loss, surrender, do not flee. Do not fight it, because the cross is not there to destroy you. It is there to transform you. What looks like your breaking point may be your breakthrough. What seems like your end may be your beginning. Because in the kingdom of God, the cross always comes before the crown. Death always comes before life. And Friday's darkness is always followed by Sunday's dawn. This is the power of the cross. What man condemned, God redeemed. What hell tried to silence, heaven used to sing its greatest victory. The end became the beginning, and it still is. So now, child of the Most High, you are not merely a reader of these stories. You are a living scroll, a walking testimony. The fire of Elijah, the courage of Esther, the faith of Abraham, it is calling to you. The stories are not over, they live on, in you, and the same God who split the sea, who raised the dead, who stopped the sun, is ready to write a new chapter through your life. Will you say yes?